In this week's Parashat Pinchas, we have the great praises at the very beginning of Hashem praising Pinchas for his great act of kana'ut, of zealotry, where he saved the whole Jewish people. To catch everybody up, at the end of last week's Parashat Balak, the Jewish people start to sin. It starts with the head of the tribe of Shimon, Zimri ben Salu, when he takes a non-Jewish woman, a Midianite woman, and sins publicly with this woman. And alongside him comes 24,000 other Jewish people, probably from the tribe of Shimon, and they start sinning with the Moabite women. So there's Moabite women, there's Midianite women, there's a great sin that happens, and a plague hits the Jewish people at the very end of the parasha. 24,000 Jews are killed, until Pinchas comes along with his spear, and he pierces Zimri, and saves the day, and at that point, the plague ends. And this week's parasha starts off that Hashem speaks to Moshe saying, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen heshiv et hamatim al bnei Yisrael bekano et kinati betocham velo chiliti et bnei Yisrael bekinati. And says God that Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, he turns him into a Kohen now, he removed my wrath. God was very angry at the Jewish people when he did his great act of zealotry amongst the Jewish people, and because of that, all the Jews were saved. So here's the question. Okay, we get it. There was this bad guy named Zimri. There was 24,000 people that followed him over there. The tribe of Shimon wasn't in a good light at the end of last week's parasha. But why was the whole Jewish people responsible for this one sin of a small section of Am Yisrael? Like, why is that going on? And how does Pinchas's act of zealotry save the day for the whole Jewish people? Like, why is everybody involved over here? So there's an interesting Sefarno. I think it's a deep idea in the Sefarno. Our big lesson for our lives says the Sefarno. It's the first Sefarno in this week's parasha. It's going on the act of zealotry that God says, "Bekano et kinati betocham," that Pinchas did this great act of zealotry amongst the Jewish people. So the Sefarno notes, why does it say that Pinchas does his zealotry betocham, amongst everybody? So says the Sefarno, Sha'asa nikmati le'enei kulam, that Pinchas did his act with the spear and he kills Zimri in front of everybody, so everybody could see. Kedei shebirotam ze velo yimchu yechupar al asher lo michu baposhim ubazeh yeshiv et chamatim aleihem. So says the Sefarno, by doing this in front of everybody that everybody sees, and they don't stop him from stopping this great sin, so that's going to create a kapara, an atonement, for the fact that they didn't stop the sinners originally, and that's going to stop Hashem's wrath. So the Sefarno is saying a deep idea. Why was the whole Jewish people responsible for the sin of those 24,000? Because they weren't stopping the great sin. When the tribe of Shimon and Zimri were sitting with the Midianite women and the Moabite women, so at that point there's a great Chilul Hashem happening. And what's everybody doing? They're standing by and they're watching, they're spectators, but they're not really doing anything. You know, there's a midah in America, which thankfully hasn't made it to Israel over here just yet. It's called mind your own business. In America, there's this whole thing, mind your own business, let people do what they do. And the Sefarno is saying over here, when the Jewish people are sinning, that's not a Jewish midah. If other Jews are sinning, you got to find a way to stop it. Sometimes you have to stop it a little bit more forcefully. Other times you have to just inspire people. But you can't just sit back and say, oh, what's the problem? 24,000 Jews are sinning with Midianite women, so let them do whatever they want, Let them do what they want. I'm not going to stop them, They should make their own choices. Says the Sefarno, no. This is a massive Chilul Hashem happening. And if we're going to do nothing about the massive Chilul Hashem, then Hashem gets angry. And Hashem says, my wrath is now going to be on all the Jewish people. But once Pinchas stops it in front of everybody, and nobody stops Pinchas, so that makes a tikkun. That's kind of like, a measure for measure. If we didn't stop it in front of everybody, but if we didn't stop the sin in front of everybody, but we're not stopping the tikkun either, so that's going to be a kapara for all of us. But I think the lesson over here is we have to understand that Ko Yisrael Arevim Zelazeh, that there's a principle in Judaism that we're all responsible for each other, and when people aren't doing right, we got to get out. Hopefully, before they stop sinning, in a part of time, before the negative happens, we actually have to get out there and try to inspire each other, help each other, and it's a big midah that we have to have. And if we don't, we can have chas v'shalom what happened in last week's parasha. But thankfully, Pinchas does step it up. It's hard to be that guy that steps it up. But as long as we support those people who step it up, we don't always have to be the hero ourselves. But if there is a hero out there, if we can just support him, that can act as a kapara for all those times we couldn't step it up ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.